Welcome to this thing called life.
Hello, everybody. What's up, Michael? How are you, buddy?
What up, Dave? I'm tired, but I'm wired. I got the coffee rolling, baby. How you doing?
I'm good. And listen, this is what Mike and I just dealt with because I thought he was 1 hour behind me, but it's actually 2. And I was like, listen, we're going to do this podcast at this time. And I told him that time thinking it was only 1. It was 2. Mike was supposed to take a nap, and I completely interrupted his nap. And I apologize, buddy.
No, it's all good, man. I'd rather get things done. And we just, we got lucky, actually, to be honest. It was kind of good. It all works out at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I just feel like a jerk, so I'm sorry. But the dad joke, you ready?
I'm never ready, but go ahead.
What do you call a cow that masturbates?
I don't know.
Beef stroganoff. Oh, that was a good one.
Oh, that's the best one you've had so far, bro.
I know, right? I thought that one was good. Beef stroganoff.
And it's perverted because I love perverted jokes, so it's cool.
I hope we got some laughs on that one. But anyways, we have a very special guest here today, lifelong friend of mine. His name is Daniel Grimsland. People basically call him the one-man band. He's a producer out of LA. Actually, you know what, Mike? Let's just get into the interview. Let's get it started. Here we go. And we're here with our special guest of the day. His name is Daniel Grimsland. Dan, say hello.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good.
Good to be here.
Thanks for coming. Of
course.
So, I guess you could say Dan and I go back a ways.
It's true.
A long ways. Mike kind of knows him, I guess, just from upstate New York area, Saugerties, Kingston, all that, because Mike obviously used to live up here. But I guess to start it off, Dan, how we know each other. Obviously, our parents were in a band together, even before we were swimming around in our,
in our dad's dicks.
Yeah, exactly. My point exactly. Even before we were thought of.
Totally. Yeah, I was actually earlier. I was trying to think of like when we met, and I realized like we like probably never met. We were just together,
exactly.
like from birth.
Yeah, and you were more obviously. How old are you? 34.
I'm turning 34 on Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Well, happy early birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah. So obviously you were more my sister's age actually, because my sisters are 33, I think. Right. And then, but yeah. So that's how we kind of met each other, which is just wild about our parents being in a band a long time ago. But yeah.
That's charismata. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Charismata. Yeah, that's wild to think about how far back that is. Shit.
Yeah.
But and obviously growing up, we both went to the same church. I should say our parents went to the same church, and this is a topic that Mike and I really enjoy talking about on here. Because awesome. Because growing up, obviously you start to have different views on things, and you start developing your own personality towards certain things and all that. And church happens to be a big one for us. So I guess just to put it clearly here, where do you stand currently in your beliefs?
Well, the thing with the beliefs, man, it's been a real journey for me, honestly. I went through a phase of being very angry about it. Long story short, I was engaged when I was pretty young. I was like 21. Got engaged, and that didn't work out. And when that was over, I was like, this is all bullshit. Like I just went through that, I was just like, nothing matters. I did everything the way I was supposed to, and what is this? I went through one of those, which is not necessarily fact, but that's how I felt at the time. And it sort of spiraled me down like a darker path where I was just like, okay, everything that I was told was bad, I'm going to do because it doesn't matter.
Right.
So, I went through a little drug phase, and I went down that road for a while and came out of it, feeling worse than ever, as you can imagine.
Sure.
And sort of decided that I needed to start looking at things in a different way and considering my life differently than I was. And it sent me down a whole other road of just trying to like process things and then like sort of allow myself to be angry in a good way about it. And then to do my best to work through it, to give my girlfriend, life partner the credit she deserves. She was very helpful in that whole part of the journey. And one of the things that she said to me that made a lot of sense to me and sort of spun my head around was just sort of like, what good is it doing you to be mad? The more you stay mad, the more like sad you get, the worse you feel. And we need to shed this stuff. And so I did that. I went through a process of shed. I'm still, going through it.
Sure.
And where that landed me on beliefs is that, I don't think anyone truly knows, and so I just want to do my best to live a life that's like not harmful to anybody, and do the, whatever good I can. And recognize that I do think that there's some sort of thing that you could be, considered God, but I don't believe it's a man in the sky watching my every move, and judging me and like keeping a list of shit he's going to call out, at the end of my life. I think it's everything.
Yeah.
Not to be like corny and hippie about it, but that's kind of where I landed on it, is that God is everything.
Totally.
It's the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. It is what it is. And, I don't know. I just try to respect that and be aware of it and try to show gratitude to that in a way that isn't like, dear God of the white Christian belief that I grew up with, to try to be mindful that could not be right.
Right. Right.
But I don't know. It's still a journey.
So your reasoning for questioning everything that you were basically raised with was the experience you had with your girlfriend specifically, or was it a culmination of maybe things that weren't panning out in the real world that you said, I followed the rules, I followed the, was it more than that, or was it or was it a culmination of maybe different events in your life?
That's a good question. I would say that was like the final thing for me. That was the thing that made me go, that's it. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things leading up to it. And to throw it back to Dave and I's old church, I would say a big part of it and sort of the start of the doubting and everything was that, like, when I was a teenager, I was in these sort of like what one might call spiritual hardcore bands, where we were playing like very aggressive music, but sort of like in the midst of it going like, Jesus loves you, and like trying to spread that word within this sort of like heavy music scene. And I really like loved that world and began to dress that way. And like eventually what led to this situation is that I got my lip pierced. And with my parents' permission, my dad took me. I was like 16. And that spawned this whole thing at our church where like I became a bad influence. And I was asked to leave the worship team, which was like a big deal to me. I started playing on the worship team when I was probably like 11. So at this point I'm like 15, 16. And they're basically like, if you don't take that out, you have to go. One of the elders in the church told me that I was into pagan worship because I had done that. And just like, yeah, man, I mean, it was insane. And like,
Holy shit.
I was
From a
very-
lip ring to killing goats and sacrificing animals or some shit.
they were like calling out mutilation on me. It was like all this shit. I was like,
What?
I just thought it was cool, you know. It's like it was really what it came down to. And so anyway, like that actually led my parents to leave that church. Like after that experience, which I was not cool with initially. I was like, what do you mean? This is like my family, my home. And then we wound up going to another church, and that became a whole other thing where I, you know, it was like little thing after little thing that made me start to go like, I don't know. And then when I was 20, I joined 3, and I sort of got like on the road in some real world experience and started to go like, these people who smoke pot aren't bad. You know, like these people who like live with their girlfriend aren't bad, you know, like, I don't know. It just like started to have those experiences, you know? And then once what I saw was like the future that you're supposed to have as a Christian fall apart, I was like, fuck this, I'm done. You know, it's kind of where I landed on it. And then went on that whole journey that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and that kind of happened to me too with the whole worship team thing, because I started playing drums on there like a while ago too, when I went to the church, and you know, the whole thing about me dating a girl that's not Christian and all that, and obviously there was a lot of issue with that, and then, you know, I ended up moving in with my girlfriend, and that was the end of that. They were like, no, they're like, you know, you can't be playing here in front of these people and putting, you know, dude, the whole, like, Mike and I've talked on this on probably a couple times already on this podcast about that whole thing and the whole judgmental side, and about how the way the church sees things, and it's like, you do this, you're bad, you do that, you're bad. But really, like, come on now, like, it doesn't change who you actually are, like, deep inside, you know? And like, that's the shit that gets you, like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, sorry to cut you off, that's kind of where I like lost like all that like nonsense and the whole thing with the church is, you know, once they, you know, people are looking at me like this, like what the, like, you know, but here a church is supposed to be bringing these people in and, you know, supporting them and helping them grow, but really it's like, you're gonna judge you like on that shit, like that's man.
Yeah,
It's
totally. Yeah. And what I was gonna say before is like that, to me, that whole thing of like the moving in together and whatever is so ridiculous anyway, because like, I mean, what are we even talking about? Was there like institutionalized marriage back when the Bible was written anyway? Like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
wasn't it just like people chose each other and started a life together? I don't know. It's just crazy to me.
And like in Bible times, they want to act like they know translation so well. Like they know like these pastors know Hebrew and Latin by like hand or some shit. And like they were like 13 years old getting married back then. Well, what the like like what do you really know about the Bible anyway? Like what are you really saying? You know, like you're just making some shit up and because someone told you to say this and now you're saying it to somebody else. But I think like one major thing, Daniel, and this is one thing that I have another question about this particular thing for you. And for me, it was obviously, you know, like you said, life showed me life experiences were not adding up to if I have enough faith, then I'll heal myself or heal somebody. That shit was not working out, you know, shit wasn't flying in the real world. And I realized it after a couple events and life situations that it wasn't. But my question to you is this: what was the moment, if you can recall, where you had that fear in the back of your mind that that fear left? Like when you were like, you know, I can walk away from this, because a lot of people are scared. A lot of people think like us right now, like all three of us. There are people right now in churches all across America, and they're literally just like we are at the same age, same time, and they're scared to leave because they don't want to lose their soul. They don't want to lose their, you know, parents. They don't want to lose their church family. They don't, you know. So when was that moment so we can help them understand like, there's nothing to be scared of. You're not going to burn in hell. A lip ring doesn't mean you're Satan's child. You know what I mean? Like, when was that moment? Can you help them understand that you don't need to be scared of this shit?
Yeah, well, you know, there's kind of a couple, I guess, and it's like what I was talking about earlier about like it being a bit of a journey was, I would say that the moment started out with a lot of fuck you behind it. You know what I mean? Which I would not recommend starting there. I think we've learned a lot and we don't need to go down that route anymore. But that's where it started for me. Like at a certain point, I was just like, I'm not going to church anymore. Like I'm done getting up on Sunday, like going to church anymore. I'm done with this. Like, I don't believe it. I go there and I'm just like annoyed. Everyone annoys me there. And like, I just think it's all, I call bullshit on all of you. You know, it's like kind of how I felt on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so that, but to be honest, that was a fear-based reaction, because I think the truth of the matter is there was a very loud voice in the back of my head going, you could be wrong, man. You could be going to hell. That could be real, you know,
and that's the voice that we all listen to.
Totally. And that voice made me angry, which made me go down that road that I did. It was later when I sort of tried a more peaceful method and realized like simple things, just like my parents were young, you know, putting it in that perspective. A lot of it was like growth. It was like, man, okay, how old am I now? What were they dealing with? Like, I couldn't have dealt with that. You know, it's everyone was trying to do the best that they could, put environments that seemed safe and good for everyone. And it was like coming to moments of that, like trying to look at it from that perspective of like, oh, this was done out of love. It just turned out to be a mistake, you know, coming to those moments of understanding or trying to, you know, that took a little more time and was a little more down the road. And, you know, I probably took a handful of psychedelics, but by the time I had gotten to that point as well, which, you know, not to talk drugs so much, but, you know, that was certainly a part of my mind change was, you know, sort of specifically going, I want to go deep into this and like find out how I can fix like these feelings of anxiety and guilt and things that are unnecessary in my life that come from this church experience. And yeah, but you know, the bottom line is coming to a place of understanding and different perspective was really how I was able to do it. And realizing that your parents will love you anyway, if they're good parents.
That's true, man. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Your parents will love you no matter what, bro. I've said it on the
Absolutely.
podcast before.
Yeah.
If you're doing what you love, you know, and they see it and they see the fruit of your labor, your parents are going to love you no matter what. Yeah, they'll be pissed at first, right? Or disappointed maybe.
No, yeah.
But you know what? When you do what you have to do, and like you said, you have good parents, they're going to love you. You know, if you have good parents, they're going to love you, man. That's true.
Absolutely. And it's sort of a beautiful side effect to all of this is that I now have great conversations with my parents about religion. And I would say that we've learned a lot from each other now. I'm far more open-minded about it than I ever was before. And I'm more willing to hear their take on things, you know, than I was before, and vice versa. And I think we've learned a lot and have come to just love each other even more. You know?
Totally. That's awesome. So we can transition off that topic now. That's a good ending to it, though, for sure. Definitely, like you said, your parents definitely are still going to love you no matter what, especially if they're good parents. But
yeah, unless they're bad parents. Hopefully we're not dealing with that.
If you're bad parents, you got a lot more to deal with in church.
So let me ask you, what got you into music exactly?
My dad, for sure, man.
Sure.
You know, as you know, Dave, my dad is a musician as well, and a really great guitar player and songwriter. And there was always instruments in the house. You know, there was a guitar and a bass, and you know, probably more than one guitar. And I just thought it was cool from like the moment I could understand it was the moment that I was like, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing my dad play at the Good Shepherd Christian School gymnasium, which is probably the first memory of a show that I have, I think, is that show.
Wow.
And I was probably like 4 or 5, and I just remember thinking it was awesome.
That's awesome.
I probably saw him play, I'm sure.
Contender, baby.
Yeah, right. And what's your favorite band influences growing up, or currently, I should say?
You know, it varies. It certainly varies. I was just actually talking to Siobhan, my girlfriend, right before we did this, and I was like, I never know how to answer these questions, man, because it changes so regularly.
Okay.
I would say that there's definitely, there's definitely sort of standard classics like the Beatles,
Of course.
and Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, and
Mhm.
those things, are always influential to me,
Absolutely.
no matter how many times I've heard them. And then as I've been going through like weird phases where like I only want to listen to Curtis Mayfield and Sly and the Family Stone, and then I only want to listen to Jason Isbell and Kendrick Lamar, and then it's just like I can be all over the place like that.
Absolutely.
But all of those things that I just said definitely, as of late, have been. I recently went through a big Steely Dan phase. Listened to a lot of Steely Dan.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, no, I completely understand that for sure. There's sometimes I'll throw on a folk pop playlist or something, and just listen to the playlist on Spotify, and then next thing you know, I'm listening to Under Oath or The Devil Wears Prada or somebody like that. You know what I mean? And then get into the hardcore side of it. But nah, dude,
then every time I Die track comes on, I'm like, yes,
right. With some dirty rock and roll guitars going on there. Oh man, good stuff.
Are you guys the type of dudes who can just put like mad genres on one playlist and just let that shit like shuffle? And you're just like, I don't know, whatever happens, just spin the dial and.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. The only time I really ever get thrown by that is when like a 18-minute like jazz opus comes on.
Ooh.
Then I'm like,
this is some
True.
good shit.
True. Well, you're the one who let it on there, so it's your fault. You gotta roll with that shit.
That's true. So when the Kamasi Washington track comes on, I'm like, oh, I love this, but it's messing with the vibe, man.
It's true. You can't listen to Mogwai in the middle after listening to Kendrick. That just doesn't work.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's cool, man. That's real cool. So those are your standards. What about something? I don't know. Give us something that we wouldn't know that you like to listen to. Something that maybe people wouldn't expect.
Let's see. I love Fiona Apple. Fiona Apple's like one of my favorite artists in general, and like records I go back to a lot. Not just for her songwriting, but also like I love the production on those records too. Like so a lot of it is her, but also John Bryan. I'm a big fan of, who does a lot of her production. So those are go-tos for me. I'm trying to think. Like I still do have a soft spot for an emo playlist.
Oh yeah,
dude, emo's gonna make a comeback. I swear to God, I promise you, bro.
Wait,
Dude,
emo as in who specifically?
Let's see. If I'm gonna go down that route, I'll usually go to like Further Seems Forever or
that's a good one.
Eat World. Jimmy Eat World is always a standard.
Yes. Yep.
Who else is that world? There's a lot. I'm sure like throughout this conversation I'll be like, you know who I listen to semi-regularly is Copeland. I go back to Copeland.
Fucking good, dude. Jesus,
yeah.
Aaron Marsh. Jeez, dude.
I mean, it's great. It's really good. And I love a lot of those records, but Eat, Sleep, and Repeat has really become a record that I go back to a lot. I like that one for sure.
Testing the Strong Ones. Love is a Fast Song.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Try to be a masculine dude. Listen to that fucking song. Listen to those lyrics. You're gonna cry like a little bitch.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I like girl music, man. Not to genderify a genre, but that's maybe something you would like. I love Lucius. Lucius is a great band too. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that.
What about McFly? Are they good?
McFly, I would say the English band and my old punk band both suck. No, I'm just kidding. My band did suck though. That's so funny that you saw that band.
Yeah, you guys were cool.
McFly.
No, you were cool.
That was shortly after I got my lip pierced.
I know. That's why I thought you were cool. I think I saw you, and we were in a Christian school, Good Shepherd. Shout out to Good Shepherd. If anyone's listening from Good Shepherd, shout out to my school. I still have a soft spot in my heart for that school, but yeah, you guys were like, they were like, oh yeah, there's a punk band playing at this church. So obviously, like, we all wanted to go. I think Mark Rockhill and Tim Tiernan, we jumped in the car. We went out to, I think it was like Poughkeepsie or whatever, and sure enough, McFly was playing. We were like, oh, we're gonna see him. We're gonna see him. But then some weird fucking guy got up there and started talking about how secular music was the devil, and then he was using all these analogies and some weird shit. I don't know. Threw me off a little bit. But then we got to hear McFly. We were like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is. And bro, back then you guys were cool because you guys were doing shit no one was doing. You have to realize this is like what 2000, 2001, 2000, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I was doing this shit. You guys were like pioneers of the Hudson Valley area. You have to understand, like, people weren't doing Christian punk and Christian metal, you know?
That's true.
I mean, bro, there was I think there was a band, Mike Sarancino. He had like a metal band,
Oh,
and they were supposedly Christian.
Yeah, what
Solace,
was-
yeah.
Solace. And
Yeah.
then we had a band together called Hallow Legacy that he
I
played
remember
drums
that.
in, and I played bass in.
You guys were actually nasty, if I remember correctly.
That was the
That
first
band
band I
was
ever went
super
on tour with.
Yes,
That was
you guys were really nasty.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
So no, dude, I think that's how I remember you the most was McFly. I think that was the whole thing.
That's so funny. That was a short-lived, Christian punk band that I was in. I played guitar and did a little singing. It was like maybe my first entrance into doing some singing. It was the backup vocals in McFly.
So,
we put out a cassette called "The Moms Are Attacking."
That's awesome. So like that was your first introduction into the music scene, basically. Then.
Pretty much. There was a band before that, which was the two guys from McFly. We had a band called Not Mere Men, and we used to play around a little bit, also like a Christian band. And then when that thing sort of stopped doing our thing, like the three of us started McFly.
Yep.
And yeah, that was the first time I ever recorded anything. That was the first time I ever went into the studio. My first time writing songs, because I had switched over to guitar
Sure.
instead of playing bass.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
And then obviously the most, I guess you could say the most popular one, the most well-known one happened to be the band 3. And why don't we touch on that for a little bit? How was that? I know 3's been on a few tours, quite a few tours there, and you played bass for them, right?
I did, yeah. I joined 3 when I was 20. It was 2005. And yeah, it was great. I mean, we're still technically a band, but we just don't play very often. But from like 2005 to 2008 or 9, I was like on the road a lot.
That's awesome.
And I loved it. I loved every second of it, man.
That's awesome. And now it's Joey Eppard is the lead, I guess you should say the lead vocalist. Awesome set of pipes he has on him. Now is he the brother of Josh, who plays drums for Coheed?
He is.
Yes.
Josh Eppard, drummer from Coheed. Yeah. Is Joey's brother, little bro.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I delivered to Joey one time when I was out there.
Yeah.
And I saw the name and I was like, what? And then like I saw him and I was like, I'm not sure if that's him or not. And I couldn't remember what he looked like because it's been a while since I've seen 3. But yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great band. We don't do that much anymore, like I said, but I had a lot of fun with them. We did some wild tours. We toured with like the Scorpions, and we toured with Dream Theater, and we did some stuff with Coheed, and it was great. It was just an awesome run. It was really like when I look back on it in retrospect, I'm like, that was awesome.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And just like we were talking about before with religion, you go through phases where you're like, oh, this shit doesn't happen anymore, and you're like angry about it. You're like, how do I get it back or whatever, and I had to like stop thinking that way because it's toxic, and I had to start looking at it as like, man, people don't get to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome, and thank you whoever made that happen, because that was
made that happen, bro.
Yeah.
You did. The hours and hours that you put on, practicing, you made it happen, bro.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, totally.
You have to take credit as well, man. That we were raised with that be humble all the time. Well, it's true. You can be humble. Humble gets your foot in the door, but at some point you have to say, hey, that's fucking work, dude, and give yourself a little pat on the back once in a while. You know what I mean?
I can't. Pride is a sin.
Yeah, right. Where's your whip? I don't see a whip in the background. Where's your whip?
And obviously, one of the more recently has been The Grape and the Grain. Now, did you start that? Did you end up starting that band and put that all together?
I did, yeah. That sort of came from Three Quieting Down. The sort of short version of the Three story is that we had got signed to Metal Blade Records, and we did 3 albums for Metal Blade. And just before we did the third album for them, we got an offer to sign to Roadrunner Records, which at the time was a big deal. Slipknot was on that label,
Yep.
and we were on tour with a bunch of bands. We were on the Progressive Nation tour with Dream Theater, Opeth, and Between the Buried and Me.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of those bands were on Roadrunner at the time. So they offered us a deal, and even the guys at Metal Blade were like, you should do it. It's a good move for you guys. So we wound up wrapping up our commitment to Metal Blade, got signed to Roadrunner, and like almost immediately after signing to Roadrunner, they dropped more than half of their roster.
Wow.
Because of just like the economic crisis that was happening
at that time,
the 2000s.
Yeah.
So we sort of quickly found ourselves without a label, and touring we did what we could, but it's hard without a budget, and we were lucky to have a budget from our label. And then, Joey had a kid. One of the guys went through a divorce. It became this whole thing. I went through my own stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, man, I'm kind of not making music anymore. I kind of came to the realization that like, oh, I've just been like bartending and getting fucked up and like not making music, and I got to do something about that.
Absolutely.
And I just started like riffing around on the guitar. I'd basically not played guitar for a long time. And I picked up a guitar for the first time in like a long time and was like, all right, I'm writing these like Zeppelin-y kind of riffy things. Like, that's all right. That's cool. And then I downloaded the GarageBand app to my phone. And I was, like I said, I was bartending at the time. And there would be like days where there was no one there. And I would just like sit and mess around on my phone. And the next thing I knew, I had written like 10 songs on my phone.
No way.
And sort of coinciding with me picking up a guitar again, I was like, oh man, wait a minute. That guitar thing I had, like, I was sort of subconsciously like writing for those guitar things I had been messing with. And that became the first record eventually.
That's awesome.
That is so awesome, bro.
That's awesome.
And I wound up doing that one by myself. That was before we had a band. And I guess that was sort of my way to sort of pull myself out of that like state I had gotten myself into, was to sort of go like, no, I'm going to like lock myself in this room and just start like making a record, see what happens.
Bro, I'm so into like that kind of psychology shit that happens to people that are stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
Through whatever reason, and they find a way to be creative, and creativity pulls them out of where they're stuck. I think it's beautiful. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Totally. Yeah, and the grape's a fun one. I like that one a lot.
And,
that's awesome, man.
So you also recently moved to LA a year or two ago?
I did, yeah.
Cool. How's that experience been on the West Coast?
Man, I love LA. I really do. It's awesome. It's a beautiful place in a lot of ways. Like it's actually like a beautiful place to look at, but I've also just had a really great experience here. Totally. I've like met a lot of really nice people, and it's felt very welcoming since I've been here. And I'm making a lot of music, awesome. With a lot of different people, which is kind of what I was hoping to do, as much as I love doing the things at home, the Grape and Three and all that stuff. I want to do music all the time. I want to, and that's just kind of not the vibe in upstate New York. Understandably. And long story short, I got an opportunity was presented through a friend for Siobhan and I to move. Basically, a friend of ours was like, you can live at my house for as long as you need to get your own place. That's awesome. And get yourself together if you guys want to make a move. And once that opportunity was presented, it was like, well, this is like the only chance we're gonna get at something like this. If it doesn't work out, we'll just go home, you know. But like,
Mm-hmm.
we're never gonna get a chance to just jump out.
Now that's a blessing right there, bro.
Yeah,
Totally.
so we did it, and it's been great.
That's awesome. So you did it for just because, or was it more of music oriented and the scene out in LA? Like what was the reason behind it?
It wasn't scene specific necessarily. I wasn't like, oh, there's some shit happening here and I want to go there. I mean, there was a little bit of that. You know, I started to hear about the east side of LA starting to pick up for like, you know, bands sort of going there or cool bands coming out of there.
Sure.
I started to hear Echo Park, you know, Highland Park thrown around as these magical places. And so there was a little bit of that for sure. But I don't know. I also just like felt like I needed a change too. You know, I don't know. You know, I grew up in upstate New York, you know, so I did that for a long time. And as awesome as that can be, and as like one big family that can be, like, you know, you fight with your siblings sometimes, and you know, you don't always want to see your family all the time or like whatever, you know. That's kind of how I started to feel about upstate New York. At a certain point, it was like, I'm around every corner. There's like someone that I have a history with, or someone that I have this with and that with, or whatever, you know. Like I'm going to buy cigarettes at the gas station at 2 a.m, and I got this guy going like, "You're little Daniel Grimsland from Fountain of Life Church." And I'm just like, oh, I gotta get the fuck out of here. You know, it's like there was definitely a lot of that going on.
What are you doing at 2 a.m. with a piercing on your lip, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, I'm drunk. Leave me alone. Yeah. And at a certain point, I definitely was like, I need to change. I mean, I started to feel anxious a lot.
Sure.
And, you know, once the opportunity was there, it seemed right. It seemed like something, you know, whatever you could call it, God or whatever, sort of gave us a chance at a new start. And so we did it, you know, and also just the musical end of it is, I think I've always seen the end game of touring in bands and doing all that stuff being that I would eventually start producing. And that's what I've always sort of secretly, not so secretly, have kind of always been what I've wanted to do.
Sure.
And so on that level, I saw that opportunity where I was like, this is my chance to like not be the guy from 3, not be the guy from Grape in the Green. I'm just like guy from New York,
right,
who produces now. I can say I'm a producer and no one goes like, yeah, okay, bud. Yeah. That's how you play McFly. You know?
That's awesome. That's awesome, dude. So it's cool. Like I know too, because I took a little like class with it was actually called Recording Connection, and they're like something out of Florida, and I kind of did the same thing and touched on the whole, you know, studio recording engineer type aspect of it, and learning Pro Tools and learning all these different ways to mic an instrument and do all that. And it's pretty awesome when you get literally the full spectrum of music, from being a musician to learning audio engineering and all that. So I completely understand that for sure.
Yeah, man. You probably have a much greater understanding of it than I do. At this point, I've been like definitely bumbling around to a certain degree, learning how to do all this, but it's been great.
It's been a great absolutely challenge. It's so much fun. So much fun. There's endless possibilities that you could do is all that shit.
Yeah.
But
so is that the major goal in LA, is to do producing?
I think so. You know, I certainly enjoy playing in bands. I play in a band and occasionally play with some solo artists and stuff out here. And I certainly love to perform. So, you know, I think that'll always be part of it. I don't know that I mean, who knows? I'll get old one day and we'll see what happens. But right now I can't see myself really going like, I'm not going to play shows anymore and just be a studio guy. I mean, I really like playing shows. Hopefully that'll still be a part of it to a certain degree. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, I like to produce and I like to co-write too, you know. like to sort of sit in a room with someone and work something out, and then at the end of the day there's a song, is really cool for me. I like doing that a lot.
So,
Awesome.
can you give me 3 bands that we need to listen to? Give us 3 suggestions. Give us three groups. No, it doesn't have to be bands. Just 3 musical groups that you think we should be listening to right now, like that are relevant right now, that are hot, that are dope. 3 picks.
Relevant right now. Oh man, I gotta look at my Spotify.
Yeah, there you go. Doing homework.
What do we got?
I'm
See,
literally gonna
like-
write these down, Daniel. So that's why I'm asking. It's more for me than anybody else, but
See, like I can't even use my Spotify isn't even good for that. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, okay, White Stripes, Stevie Wonder, Sly the Family Stone, and the Clash. You just like I'm bad about all that. Oh, let's see the new Page of the Lion record. There you go. Page of the Lion's a great band if you guys don't know Page of the Lion.
Mm-hmm.
Page of the Line. Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you guys don't know Page of the Lion, I would definitely recommend listening to that because it's right up our alley, religious wise. He was like on Tooth and Nail Records originally, doing the whole Christian thing, and then sort of got shunned because of his lyrical content. Because he started like calling out the church in his lyrics, kind of got shunned by the Christian music scene.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do
And
that.
he then made these great records that are sort of like all about his
Interesting.
leaving the church, all sort of put into stories about like adultery and like businessmen like killing their wives and things like that. It's like it's pretty crazy.
Oh, shit.
He's really great.
I think Devin Shelton from Emory had told us about Pedro. I don't know if you mentioned them or I don't know if it was. I listened to a podcast about Tooth and Nail. I think maybe they mentioned Pedro the Line.
Oh, you know who I just saw here in my Spotify that I can most definitely recommend is American Film History. American Film History is Frank McGinnis from originally from Roxbury, New York. He's a Poughkeepsie boy now, but you guys may or may not remember Frankie and His Fingers. They were a local band for a long time, but this is his new project, and his new record, Be Content with Your Light Child, is great.
Awesome.
I love it. I'm a big fan.
Totally. Gonna have to check all that out for sure.
One more. We need one more.
Let's see one more. What do we got?
I'm milking Dan out because
Have
who
you
knows
ever
when we're gonna talk to him again.
have you ever heard of this artist called Corey Wells?
I don't know Corey Wells.
I think he's actually in LA somewhere, actually, a matter of fact. But I had some playlist on, and this guy came on, and I was like, wow, this guy's really good. And he does like a lot of acoustic stuff too. But his voice is so, oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. And I've been stuck on him recently. You know how you say you get stuck on like a certain genre?
Yep.
Like I've been stuck on this artist specifically, and I'm like, damn, and I'm out there delivering packages and whatnot, and I got this guy blasted, and it's just his vocals are so great, his lyrical writing, everything is pretty awesome. But I recommend checking him out. I've been stuck on him.
Nice.
Recently. Yeah.
Have to check that out.
For sure.
Jason Isbell is a guy I go back to a lot. He's a sort of an Americana country artist, but he's like a sort of a phenomenal lyric writer.
Jason, who? What was the last name?
Isbell.
Isbell,
Isbell. Yeah, he's really great, and I'm sure I feel like I'm like missing things that I should like. I'll be done with this podcast and go like, God damn it, what didn't I say?
Of course. It always happens.
But yeah, man, and of course, like if I could just self promote for a brief second, Haley Johnson, the Little Miss, she's got some stuff out on Spotify, and I've been playing bass in her band, and she's a great writer.
Nice.
And we are doing a record in my apartment that'll be coming out
Awesome.
sometime this year, I think.
Sure not. I'm sure that's not the only thing you do in your apartment.
Oh, come on, Michael.
That you sleep in there too.
I did. You'd be surprised how often.
Awesome. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us, Dan. Dude, thanks again for joining us. Where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Instagram at Daniel Grimsland, just one word. I think it's Daniel Grimsland Music on Facebook. And then there's The Little Miss on Facebook, if you want to check that stuff out. The Grape and the Grain
Absolutely.
on Facebook and Instagram and all that. 3 is the band 3
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook and all that stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Cool. So
Sweet, man.
dude, yeah, thanks again for joining us, man. And everybody definitely go check Dan's workout and oh, that sounded weird. Dan's workout. No, it sounded like a gym type of thing there.
I gotta start doing video like workout videos.
The soundtrack is dope, and he's just Dan working out. Like,
Just me sitting up, lighting joints, laying down, sitting up.
Everybody go follow Dan on Instagram and all that for sure, and check his music.
Thank you
out.
guys for having me on. This
Dude.
is super fun.
Awesome.
thanks for taking the time,
joining us,
man.
bro.
Appreciate you.
Oh, of
So-
course, anytime. Do it again sometime.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
man. We'll catch you later.
All right, guys. See ya.
Peace.
See ya. All right, and that'll do it for this episode. Dan, thanks again for joining us, man. That was awesome. We appreciate you taking the time. Also, guys, don't forget to head over to ttclpod.com. You can find all our social media links over there, as well as episodes. All that jazz is on the website. And now, to take us out here to end the episode, here is a song from The Grape and the Grain. It is called Anything, Everything. We'll see you guys next week.